Hi, it's JamesAnimalHarrison. I'm here with the Tip Tuesday, and I'm going to talk today about cymbal selection. You see a dog wandering in and out of the picture. There's a dog over here wanting attention. Hey Murphy. It's completely snowing outside and cold out of nowhere. Wind's blowing about 30 miles an hour, so it's a day to be bundled up and talk about cymbals. So what I'm going to talk about is my opinion on how hopefully I can help you, especially young people, in selecting cymbals. Now, when I was young, you had two choices, basically. There might have been more cymbals out there, but most of the dealers and stuff didn't carry them unless you were in very large cities. I grew up in a small town in Murray, Kentucky. So you had Zildjian, which is, my understanding, still the longest family-run business in the world. And you had Paiste, I say Paiste, some say Pasty. And my first pair of cymbals that came with my first set were Ludwig Standards by Paiste. I no longer have those. And over time, I got some Zildjians and stuff like that. And then in the 80s, sometime, I can't remember exactly when in the 80s, in the earlier 80s, Sabian came on the market, and we know, if you don't know, you can look up the history and Google it, of Sabian and Zildjian, both being Zildjian family members, but splitting the company. And Sabian bringing over from Turkey some of the people who hand-hammered the cymbals and started that process again, which had been discontinued. And the Zildjian Ks were being imported through Gretsch. And anyway, long story short, I bought a Sabian cymbal through a mail order company. Now, it was a Sabian rock cymbal. I don't have it anymore either. It was a great cymbal for what I was doing at the time, but it was just a little heavier than what I liked. And but as I got to a point where I was playing on the road a lot, right after college, and visiting different towns and stuff, I would go shop and see things. And of course, the mail order became big. And Modern Drummer was a huge influence. And I would see drummers that I really liked and see more and more and more about Sabian cymbals. So I kept buying some. I bought like a China type cymbal and whatnot. And eventually, I had gotten to where most of my kit was now Sabian oriented cymbals. And so eventually, after moving to Idaho, I met Pat Rogers doing a clinic for Sabian at the time, and then I bought a cymbal from him off that clinic that was a HH, I think it was called a Fast Chinese. I still have it. I haven't used it in a long time. But that was the beginning of meeting some people from Sabian and creating some relationships. And then a guy named David Kelly is the one that actually brought me on as an endorser. So I've been an endorser for Sabian for 25 years, almost going on 26 years, I believe. And through that, I've been afforded the luxury of amassing quite a collection of things to cover a wide variety of styles of music. Now, I don't get my stuff free. And for all you people, most endorsers do not get their stuff free. Some of the major artists might, but the average endorser does not. So just to blow that, conspiracy out of the water. But they have been very good to me. And of course, being with them for so long now, a lot of the people that I originally worked with are gone. But obviously, Andy Zildjian's now the president, and I know Andy. And mostly through some friends at Vader. And Chris Stankee in California is still there. But along the way, Bobby Lewis was a major connection for me, and Nick Petrella and stuff like that. But anyway, over time, I've amassed a lot of stuff. And so when it comes to crystal clear type crashes for studio work or medium volume, even loud volume, if you're not bashing ridiculously hard, that crystal clear sound that I like is the AAX studio crashes. Those are my favorite. Clean, in the mix, out of the mix really quick, great shimmer, great clarity. That's my favorite crash cymbal for most of that kind of stuff. And my favorite hats were the Fusion hats. I have both the AAX and the HH I think it's HH. The top cymbal is like a medium weight, and the bottom one is very thick with holes around the bell for the air to escape. Those became my go-to cymbals for what ended up being mostly rock-oriented stuff that I was playing at the time. And as I got into this house gig in Boise, it was a very, very loud stage volume, very loud gig where everything was mic'd. I cracked a studio crash, and it just brought me to tears practically because I had loved it so much. And I actually went to the Sabian factory back in the 90s and picked out a couple things. But I decided I need to upgrade in terms of something that would cut through that kind of a volume. Even with miking, I still wanted something that would hold up to the abuse. So I ended up going through some different trials and tribulations and finally settled on the AAX explosion crashes. So those, I have a complete set of those. Well, I have a 17, 18, 19, and 20-inch set. I did have a 16 at one point. I sold it. I decided in the heavier rock stuff, I preferred the larger cymbals. And I still have all those for heavy rock type playing for my crashes. And I still have a complete set of the studio crashes, and those are smaller. I actually have a 16, 17, and 18, I believe, of those. I have various splashes ranging from AA, even the Mike Portnoy splashes are great. There's a set, I believe they're odd sizes, like 7, 9, and 11. Haven't used them in a while, but they sound great. I have the Max Stacks, which are Mike Portnoy again. It's like a 10-inch China on top of a splash cymbal. It's kind of like a small, trashy type thing. But the splashes that I settled on using the most, almost in everything, are either a hand-hammered splash, 10-inch, or a Roctagon splash that's 10-inch. And it, just because of the sound differences, I use those a lot. For my basic jazz setup that I finally, I had gone through, I had a hand-hammered medium ride, and I got a Manhattan. It's actually a 21 or 22-inch ride. I haven't pulled it out in quite a long time. And over time, I just ended up getting more and more cymbals because I wanted a set that I could take out with, if I was playing a dinner club, playing light jazz. I bought a set and I used a set of 14-inch duo hats. They're very dark and they're very hard to overplay. They're just very subdued, nice cymbals. And an 18-inch duo ride. And then I paired that with the hand-hammered medium ride, or sometimes I'll switch that out with something a little darker, like the one that's here on this set right now. This is my practice room. I have a Vault Series crossover ride. I also have an Artisan Light ride, and those are the main ones for my jazz stuff, along with that Manhattan and whatnot. And then for hi-hats, again, I've got anything ranging from right here is a set of 14-inch just AA medium hats. On the right side of this particular kit, I actually have a 16-inch APX, kind of like an ozone. It's full of holes. On top of a B8 Pro 16-inch crash, and that's my trashy. I'm just hitting that with my finger. My trashy hat. I've got it on the loose side right now. And ride cymbal-wise, I've got a bunch of different rides. When I was playing in that heavy house gig, that bar gig, I used the metal ride because the bell was so penetrating and the ping on the ride was great, but it wasn't something you could crash. So that's why I went to the 20-inch AAX crash. I ended up switching that out eventually for a hand-hammered, I guess it's called the Mega Bell ride or something, and I tried that for a while, and I liked it, but the cut, I was so used to the cut of the metal ride that I ended up going back to that. But I have a lot of ride cymbals. I have the Jojo Mayer Omni ride. Sometimes I'll use that on some jazz gigs because you can crash it and ride it. The Jojo Mayer Fierce ride is one of my favorite for jazz fusion type playing, and I'll mix that into the mix and whatnot like that. But my point is, through time, I have several cymbal bags now, and they're paired up based on the type of gig that I'm playing. If I'm playing with a jazz big band, then I'll actually take out the studio crashes because they penetrate and get out of the way quick. But then I'll take something like the hand-hammered medium ride or the Jojo Mayer fierce ride, and then I'll use the fusion hats or the hand-hammered 14-inch medium hats, so that it's a little darker, but I get that chick that will cut through and please everybody where they can hear that. The Duo series cymbals don't really work for that. And I've got a lot of effects cymbals. I've got the chopper. I've got, again, several ozone cymbals, a couple of different APX versions of those that I actually ended up replacing the Chinas with that because it was a more subdued sound. I've tried the HHX Extremes. They're really nice and whatnot. But again, back to the point of this, I was fortunate enough to be able to assemble different types of cymbals based on the gig that I might be playing. So what I'm saying is now with YouTube, for us growing up, it was Modern Drummer or, you know, maybe an album cover to find out what an artist was playing. Nowadays, we see stuff on YouTube, and so many people are doing video lessons and things like that. And many people see that and want to get what they have, not understanding that they chose those cymbals for recording video lessons because they're friendly to the camera or the phone or anything. And those particular cymbals might sound great in that environment, but in a loud rock gig, some of those dark, trashy things are not going to cut very well. So you have to juggle and find out what's going to work best for you. And the trend in the last few years has been dark and trashy or controlled volume type cymbals, mostly because of the online type stuff. I don't have a lot of that, but, you know, that's an experiment thing as I move onward and have to probably go more online. You know, maybe that will come into the mix. So what I'm saying is that if you're going to be playing a big metal gig and you know the stage volume is going to be tremendously loud and you're wearing earplugs, don't get super thin cymbals. You're going to beat them out of shape or they're just not going to work to cut the volume. You don't necessarily need to get the thickest ones either because they don't speak that quickly. But, you know, like the HHX or AAX explosion crashes cut through any type of thing, and I think those are great. For jazz, if you want, you know, I don't really use crash cymbals for like jazz bebop type gigs. I just crash my rides. And again, I have different ones that work well for that. The Jojo Mayer Omni or the Manhattan works really well for that. They're thick enough that I can get a nice ping out of them, but I can roll on them or I can, you know, lay the shoulder of the stick into it or whatnot. So I've been a Sabian person for 26 years. I'm all about that now. I don't have anything negative to say about them. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Chris Stankee, for people who are still there that I know. And, you know, I'm singing the praises of Sabian all the way. So I'm probably going to change some of the cymbals in this room. I'm probably going to put this crossover ride away and pull out the Jojo Mayer Fierce ride. And maybe what I'll do is shoot some videos in the future of maybe putting up a couple of different rides at a time and demonstrating the difference between them once I get my overhead mic set up and whatnot and do a different video program. But anyway, kudos to Sabian. Love the product. Just choose wisely, not based on what you see, unless that person's doing exactly what you want to do. Then you can maybe say, okay, I want cymbals that are appropriate for shooting videos. I want cymbals that are appropriate for a speed metal band. I want cymbals that are appropriate for a country band. Find out what your favorite artist is using when they're touring and doing that, and then you probably can't go wrong.